If you clicked on this video, we're probably in the same boat, reflecting on 2025, setting intentions for the new year. For me, 2025, I feel like is gonna be one of those years where I look back and think of it as a very pivotal point in my life. A lot of things changed for me this year internally. There were so many internal shifts that happened this year. A lot of it was painful, but very rewarding at the end. Towards the end of 2025, I realized I really want to live an intentional life. Not because of anything, but with the reality of knowing that our lives are not infinite, they're very finite, and I really want to live a life that means something for me and for other people. I feel like a lot more than ever, life feels like a blur most of the time. Like, how are we already at the end of the year? I feel like we just started 2025 yesterday. How is this even real? A lot of that is also because of how much time we spend on our phones and in front of a screen, in front of a device, that life just happens so fast that we don't realize, and we're not actively out there in the world doing things with ourselves. I have always been aware of how much social media threatens our real life connections and just threatens our ability to actually build a life that means something and creates value. And don't get me wrong, I feel like social media is a good thing in general, but obviously too much of anything becomes a disaster. I just always felt like, okay, if I stay away from using social media as much, I'm doing something better. A step further that every one of us has to take is also not only staying away from social media, but actually doing stuff to fill that time in and actually building a life that we care about. I want to look back on my years and be happy with the fact that I actually pursued stuff. I went after dreams, I went after goals, I built something for myself, not because I want to have a legacy or whatever. I want to have a very full and rich life. I don't mean rich in terms of actual assets. I want to have rich feeling relationships. I want to create stuff of value. The more I think about it, the more I realize I am the happiest when I am creating. As a human being, as a person, as an individual, we are meant to create. And I preach about this a lot because it is a hill that I'm willing to die on. So when we talk about building a more intentional life, again, it's not only about staying away from social media and avoiding being online and deleting social media apps. No, it's not even going to be any of those things necessarily. The goal here is to have things to do and be so involved with other things that you forget that social media even exists. Do you know what I mean? So I have written down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish things that if you implement today, you would be on your way to building a very intentional life and create more than you consume. My first point is a point that you've probably heard 1,000 times, and it is very important because it is the ethos of everything else that we're going to build here, and it's to journal more. Yes, again, I'm going to be the 1,000th person to say it. You need to be journaling more. You need to get to know yourself. It is the foundation of everything that you're going to do after. When we talk about creating and creativity, it really is just self-expression at the baseline. And you cannot create or you cannot self-express when you don't know what you're expressing. So get to know yourself. I started doing morning pages when I started The Artist Way, and honestly, I have learned so much about myself from just doing that activity every single day. Right now, I'm not so consistent with it because obviously it is the holidays and whatnot. Writing and getting to know your thoughts is the way to get to know yourself. The next point is to pick something to learn. You want to stay teachable and you want to have that curious mentality. Kids in general are just very curious human beings. They're always trying to learn, and it's just their brain firing neurons or whatever the neuroscientists say, trying to understand life. And I think we need to embody that as adults. Having something to keep your brain alert is one of the ways to maintain or improve brain activity. I'm not a scientist, I cannot really prove this, but it just makes sense in my head, and I'm pretty sure there are other things to prove what I'm saying. I just don't have the bandwidth for it right now. Especially with social media, there's so many things that can build curiosity in you. Trust me, as someone that is multi-passionate and feels like there's so many things that I could be doing, I want to do this, I want to do that. Don't underestimate the power of focus. Focus on one thing. A lot of my resistance to not picking one thing was out of a scarcity mindset, because I'm like, I don't have enough time. I need to do X, Y, and Z all together. But if you're trying to do multiple things at the same time, you're not really going to be good at anything. I had to come back because I don't think I really explained my point here well. So we're doing a take 2. Just trying to be honest with you guys, you know what I mean? When I talk about picking something, I felt for this trap before that. I like so many things. I want to learn about so many things, so I have to pursue so many things at the same time. But I think that rubbed me off eventually was the opportunity to become really good at something. Because if we're realistic, what's the saying that says a jack of all trades is a master of none or something like that? That is so true. Never underestimate the power of focusing on one thing and becoming really good at something. I had to do a little bit more internal digging to kind of understand where I was coming from, and I realized a lot of my hyperactivity or my restlessness in picking one thing was coming from a scarcity mindset. Like I just felt like time's going, I'm getting older, how am I going to be able to pursue all these passions that I have because there's so many and there's so little time, which is a lie, by the way. One thing that really helped get me out of that mindset is realizing that you can be 50 and choose to completely change your life around. And when you start to see life that way, it becomes a playground of like, okay, well, today I'm feeling whimsical, I want to do this, I want to do that, and tomorrow I want to feel like a nerd and go back to school. And realizing that when you unsubscribe to societal timetable of, okay, you're 40, this is what your life should look like, the world actually becomes your playground and you realize you can do whatever you want in your own time, God willing, of course. But just letting go of the pressure of like you have to be this or you have to be that by a certain age frees your mind and allows you to be like, okay, I can try this today and tomorrow I can pick something up. And it's not the end of the world. I'm not a failure. I can do whatever, I can do whatever I want. Honoring your passions that way is the way that I found to move forward and pick something. Okay, I'm gonna go now. Picking something and sticking with it and trying to be an expert at something is another way of building curiosity and also getting to know yourself on a deeper level. And I also want you to be able to sit in the discomfort of not knowing how to do something, but revisiting it every single day because you're choosing to be better at it. That is the way you build character, self-confidence, and also resilience. I think a lot of the times we don't want to start something new because we're scared or we don't want to deal with that back and forth of how do I actually figure this out. I see this a lot with myself every time I sit down to edit a new video or a new idea that I've never really done or I haven't just really practiced in a long time. So don't be discouraged by the discomfort. Instead, embrace it. Find a way to romanticize that process in your head and stick to being an expert at something, even though it's uncomfortable in the beginning. My third point, which kind of follows through with my last point, is to practice. This can be related to the thing you choose to learn about, or it could be completely different, but I think you should have something like a hobby or a skill. For me, it's like video editing and creative projects, whatever you want to call it, right? You want to have something that you are practicing constantly. Make videos and do things and make things for the sake of, rather than trying to make this the next viral or the next big thing. When you remove the expectation of like, this video has to be that video that blows me up and gets me 1 million subscribers or whatever, it allows you to create for the sake of. And when you are creating for the sake of, you are creating because you want to express yourself. It's in that process you realize what you want to make, what you want to do, and it's in that process you really let yourself explore and experiment. I feel like I cannot say make a hobby or have a hobby and practice because it's so easy to choose to, choose a new hobby, whatever. It's even exciting. The other most important part of picking a hobby is to make time for your hobbies. If you do not make time in your schedule to do the things, you're never gonna do the thing. Last month, I put chess on my habit tracker thing. I put video games on my habit tracker. Even this month, I did the same thing. And I only ticked it off, once, 2, 3 times, and that's because I'm not making time in my everyday schedule to do this thing, and it just completely skips my mind. So make time for the hobbies, make time for your practice. And if you want to say I don't have time, I think just take a look at your screen time. If you see that your screen time's crazy, think about replacing that amount of time that you use on your phone to a hobby or whatever. I always see these videos on YouTube and whatnot about like replacing my screen time with my hobbies, and it is just a visual representation for me of, if you have 15 minutes to scroll on your phone, you have 15 minutes to do your hobbies and to practice and do the things that actually bring you joy. Stop waiting for clarity and move and just do the freaking thing. It's in the process of doing all these things that you get clarity. You're not gonna get clarity, or you're never gonna be able to answer that question at any definitive point in time. Once you put yourself in motion, you realize, okay, this is what works. This is what I really like. This is what I do not like. Maybe I should stop doing this and focus on that. Trying to get clarity ahead of time. This is one of the lessons I had to learn so many times this year. And it's like you get clarity in motion and not before, baby. My last point is heavily inspired by The Artist's Way. And once I read this in the book, I realized it was like she wrote it just for me to read on this particular day. And I just want to read it out to you because I can't say it better than she said it. Creative people are dramatic, and we use negative drama to scare ourselves out of the creativity with this notion of wholesale and often destructive change. Fantasizing about pursuing our art full-time, we fail to pursue it part-time or at all. Instead of writing 3 pages a day on a screenplay, we prefer worrying about how we will have to move to Hollywood if the script gets bought, which it can't anyway, since we are too busy worrying about selling it to write it. My point is, don't be dramatic. Focus on the things you can do today and not the future version of whatever happens. And that's what she's trying to say here, or what she is saying here. Focus on the things that you can do today towards your goal. Don't start thinking about how you're gonna quit your job to be able to pursue something full-time. There's no shame, there's no problem starting something with 1 hour a day, 30 minutes a day, until you can build it up from there. Don't worry about selling your screenplay when you haven't even started writing it. I think focus on writing it first and then build from there, which also builds off of my last point. Again, you get clarity in the movement and in the doing of practicing your creativity. I'm gonna wrap up the video here. I hope you guys took something from this video. And if there's one thing I want to say before we leave, is nothing changes if nothing changes. Pick something, do something, make a change where you really want to. We're so close to 500 subscribers. It would mean a lot if you subscribe, if you really enjoyed this video and like this video. Then I love you and leave you. Bye.